All right. Hey, I'm Milan Smith with Kookville, and I'm here with Joe Byers. And Kookville is a TV show that we've been working on for the last, 2 years? 2.5, Joe?
3, 4, something like that.
It's been
Long
quite a long
time.
time. What we've been doing is we started off doing as a web series and then decided to try to upgrade to a TV show. And it's basically been Joe and I working on this as the main producers. And what we're going to do with this podcast is just talk a little bit about Kookville, and maybe we'll kind of wander off on different subjects. And I thought what we would do is talk about some of the production problems we had on the TV show. Now, the show we've done what we call one season, but it'll probably end up being 2 or 3 once we get to Film Hub. And we have like 10 episodes done. And we've gone through a lot of ups and downs about it. What do you think is the biggest problem we had, Joe?
It's hard to pick one out amongst the many. I don't know. In some respects, we were kind of snake bit coming out of the gate because we had our location for the Ochuse County Press-Gazette offices.
Yes.
And we essentially lost them. We had filmed, 1 day or 2 days?
Full day, 10 hours.
And we lost that right after we began, so we had to regroup, find another location, and go back and reshoot all the stuff that we had shot and tried to work that into the schedule of shooting the next day's shooting. So one day we ended up doing 2 days worth of shooting. It made for a very long day, and it was kind of hectic trying to make sure we could get everything done in that amount of time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that's necessarily the biggest headache, because once it was done, it was done. But it is kind of indicative of the kind of thing that you can run into when you're producing a local small budget or no budget TV show. Is
Right.
Things like a major location, poof, just dries up and goes away.
Right. I guess in a sense that happened more than once. And what I mean by that is originally in the web series, we had this store, which was really cool. They had a skunk ape. They had a bunch of stuffed animals, traps. It was kind of open raw wood walls, really great. And I was hoping to use that for the TV show. But unfortunately, the manager, what happened was the people that owned it sold out. And the new people, the manager said it shouldn't be a problem, but I could never get a hold of the owner. So after a while, you kind of take a hint and just accept they're not interested in working with you. And that was a kind of a loss. So I had to write the whole first season without the store, but referring to the store, in the hopes that eventually we get something similar. If we do get a second season, I would love to try to recreate the ambiance of the place, because it had a sort of a country out there feel to it.
And that's something that you could speak to better than I can, because you're writing this show, and without a budget, we don't create our own sets. We use found sets, houses, buildings, parks, things like that. So when it comes down to the creative process, that's the kind of thing you could speak about, having to write with the idea of, where will I put this? What can I get a hold of? Like you wrote several episodes in a bar, and luckily we found a bar that's been extremely accommodating to us. But if that had dried up, but we found a bar that has been very accommodating and letting us come in and videotape, and it's a great looking location. But if that had not happened, what would you have done? Because these episodes were clearly in a bar. So if we hadn't have found another location, you probably would have had to retool some of the episodes to reflect that.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In a sense, we had to do that with characters. We had a guy who was going to work as a character named Blaine, and not quite at the last minute, but close to it, he decided he wasn't interested anymore. And we were about 6 weeks out, and so we had to rewrite the character. Fortunately, we had a guy that was fantastic. His name is Robin, and he plays a character named Kane, and he really killed it. He really meshed well with the whole vibe of Kookville.
Very well.
Yeah. So I guess maybe we should do real quick is for those who didn't see any of the first podcast clips, kind of explain what Kookville is all about. In a nutshell, Dominic O'Connor is this hotshot reporter in Atlanta, and he kind of screws up big time.
Kinda.
He loses his job. Is kind of driven out of Atlanta, and he's kind of burned in the industry. So he ends up getting the only job he could find, which is kind of a third-rate newspaper in a fourth-rate town in West Florida. And they're full of weirdos, including the Skunk Ain't Boys, of which you play one of.
I do.
And the whole concept is a fish out of water, at least for the first season. You know, eventually Dominic will sort of fit in a little bit better, but he's still going to be the oddball. Yeah, well, we hope so.
And see, my take on Dominic is a little bit different from yours. I mean, you wrote it, but to me, Dominic is one of those guys, at least what we have seen of him so far, because his backstory is that he did have a very successful career as a newspaper reporter in Atlanta. So there's that. But when we pick up with him, he's one of those guys that everything he touches seems to turn to mud. And it's kind of reflected. He has trouble getting in and out of cars. He steps in dog excrement. He has a bird defecate on him in one of the episodes. He gets his bag that he carries caught up on the emergency brake in his car. It's little things like that. He's constantly he drops his keys a lot. He just kind of maybe a fish out of water, but a really uncoordinated, goofy fish, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it starts off Dominic is kind of everything was going well for him for the first 45 years of his life. He was just killing it. Everything was going his way. And now it seems like all the luck ran out and everything's going against him at that point, which is...
It's almost like it's out of rhythm. He's been hitting everything like a vehicle or a propeller on an airplane that's running properly, smoothly. Everything's going well, and something gets off and it starts kind of shaking itself to pieces. That's
right.
Kind of where it seems like it's happening to him. As much as the town being out to get him, he seems to be out to get himself almost as much as the town is out to get him as well. Right. That's just my take.
Sure. A perfectly legitimate take. One of the things we wanted to do as we went on, we thought it might be fun to do this podcast. And let me say real quick, we started off with one of the guys who's been working on this with John Mistro, who's been really helping us with the marketing. And so today what we're doing now is we're talking to Joe, and we'll see how things go with the podcast now going forward. This is sort of an experiment. I've never done a podcast before, so hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, and it gives people a chance to kind of know what our experience is like, and it's very, very niche. I mean, again, this is small budget or no budget done in a small town in West Florida, and it's just our experience about trying to make that work. And it has its own sets of challenges. Like one of the things that we didn't talk about, but is that we without a budget to pay people, you're very much at the whim of what's going on in their lives. People leave.
Sure.
We lose
Yes.
characters. People have jobs. We have to shoot around that, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess in some respects that's not any different than a big budget movie. They may have somebody for 4 months. The person then is going on to star in another movie, so they've got to wrap it up. So it happens with big budgets. It's just it's a lot easier to cry into your millions than it is to cry into your dimes.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's a interesting point you make about people leaving. When we did the web series, we did 2 seasons of 8 episodes each, and we had several people that we liked, and it was sort of like, well, let me say, when we did the first season, we were just doing it to do it. But by the time we got to the second season, we were already thinking about possibly doing a TV show. And so a lot of people we were working with, it was sort of like a unofficial audition. And most of the people we really, really liked working with, and I was hoping they would stay. But 4 or 5 of them ended up moving. So we had like 16 episodes. And so it was 16 different characters, and like 4 or 5 of them left. And so we had to recount. Yeah, it is. It was kind of crazy. And that's one of the fun parts of low budget, no budget filmmaking or TV making. I mean, look, it's been a lot of fun all the way around, but it's extremely frustrating. One of the things I found is that when you don't have money, everything takes like 3 times as long.
Yep.
You know, from planning to shooting to even to editing, everything. Just assume the rule of 3. Everything will take 3 times as long, and if you do that, you'll be less frustrated.
And another thing is that you've got 12 months in the year, but little things that wouldn't necessarily be the kind of stuff that would occur to most people become a factor. If you try and shoot in West Florida in the summer, you're going to need about 5 versions of the shirt that the main character is wearing.
Yeah.
Because they're going to sweat through those shirts and have to keep changing them out. I mean, it ain't that big of a deal, but it is a consideration. And given that wardrobe is very often what the actor has at home, then you can't say, well, that's a great, like I wear a hunting shirt for my character. That's a great hunting shirt. Now, have you got 5 of them? So we've confined ourselves to shooting pretty much in the early winter, late winter, early spring to avoid the heat. And that's a real factor.
Yeah. Well, actually, it became a big issue this past summer when we were shooting the Skunk Ape Boys Meet the Raccoons.
Oh, one of the shorts.
Yeah. So Joe wrote this sketch, basically. The Skunk Ape Boys, whom Joe is one of, they like to tell tall tales, and they like to...
true. Every word of it is true.
and they were giving Dominic the old BS routine, and we were shooting out by a bayou, kind of a rustic place. It was really kind of cool, and I was in this red button-up shirt, and we were there for probably an hour, I guess, total.
Hour and a half, something like that.
And I was sweating like a horse.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, and what month was that? That wasn't even into the summer.
It was
July we did that? Okay, it was into the summer. Well, that was a mistake.
Yes. Yeah, well, live and learn. I thought, because we went in the morning, fairly early, like, 9 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fairly early.
And apparently, I was just told that was apparently the hottest day of the year that we shot on.
Figures.
Yeah. Let's just
And
talk
I
about
was wearing a jacket. I have a hunting shirt on, but I have a little hunting heavy shirt, light jacket kind of thing. I was wearing that and a hat. So yeah, you have to, and it's the kind of thing that if you'd never done it before, you probably wouldn't pay attention to little factors like that. But once you start trying to say, let's make a TV show, then everything like that comes into play. You have to take it into account. Is it going to be too hot to where the actors are going to sweat through their clothing? We don't have 5 shirts available. You know, I've heard of them doing that in movies where they're shooting something where it's very hot and the actor has to change the shirt out. Well, they've got a wardrobe and a wardrobe budget. So give me 10 of those white shirts for Keanu Reeves, and he could put one on and take one off. Yeah. Well, if you don't own personally, you, Milan, don't own 10 of those red shirts. We do it with how many versions of that shirt you have, which case it was 1. Just a lot of little stuff like that makes it where you have to be thoughtful about what it is how you're going to pull this off. It's a lot of that. It's juggling and how are we going to pull this off?
Yeah. Yeah. Details, just so many details. You know, I've directed a play before, a full-length play, and there's a lot of details there, and you've got to constantly be making decisions. But it's so many more that you have to worry about if you're doing a TV show or a movie. And a TV show is actually worse because you're doing several episodes and you have to worry about when people are going to be coming, when they're going to be leaving. And you remember the greatest nightmare of all is when we had to shoot 2 or 3 different parts of 2 or 3 different episodes on one day. Remember doing that?
Was that you're not talking about the very first day that I was there? I wasn't there for when we lost the actress.
No, that's a different story. No, there was a time where we had to do a pickup for. We had parts of 3 different episodes. Most of it was.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember.
And I was it maybe because we didn't have a. We lost a director as well. But the issue I was talking about was we had, I guess it was somebody wasn't available on a certain day, so we had to do a pickup, and we ended up shooting that on the same day as another episode.
Yes. It's confusing as hell. It's confusing as hell. Trying to keep up with which episode are we shooting, and we don't really have a script supervisor, which would help. But again, budget. We don't have a script supervisor, so we have to keep up with that in situ. Yeah. With what are we doing now? Which episode are we on? Which scene are we on? Is everybody wearing the right clothes? Oh no, you got to change that tie, Dom. You were wearing the same shirt but a different tie. And it's why movies and TV shows are replete with little continuity errors. Yeah. That it's if you don't have somebody wrangling that stuff, then you just hope for the best, and you don't always get it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for just a minute. Joe is a aficionado of bad movies. Every time I go to his house, and because of the editing and the planning, I've been to his house many, many times, and he's got these 3 crazy dogs, and he's always got a really bad movie playing on his TV, like constantly. And hopefully I think that's kind of helped us avoid some of the worst sins of TV and filmmaking.
Yeah, I would say the thing about any kind of film or TV is that when it is done well, you don't notice the things that went into making it be done well. Like the editing. If you notice the editing, then you have a problem with the editing. If you notice the sound, you have a problem with the sound. The movies that just are seamless are the ones that are technically the best. And one of the great things that you can find from watching bad movies or bad TV shows, but usually movies, is that they make a lot of mistakes, but it also gives you some appreciation for what those people were trying to pull off, because a lot of bad films are low budget, and they were doing the best they can with what they had to work with. So, I have some appreciation from that, some respect, but also you notice there is something in shooting called a 180-degree imaginary line. It has to do with where you place the camera. It's usually with 2 characters or 3 characters. The camera doesn't cross this axis between the 2 of them. It's called the 180-degree imaginary line. And it's the kind of thing that if you watch bad films, you'll see it cross all over the place. Now, well-done TV shows and movies cross too, but they figured how to do it for reasons that they might have, not just as a mistake. And they figured out how to do it where it's not noticeable. But with the bad film, there's one that I watch occasionally where the camera keeps jumping over, and every time I see it, I cringe. But I understand this film, I know, was made for next to nothing.
Right.
And they still have a car wreck in it. That's the other thing. It's like when you start talking about low budget, there's low budget and there's low budget, and then there's kind of what we're doing, which is if we can't find it already there, we can't use it.
Right.
So we could have a great idea about making elephants parachute out of helicopters. And that could be done. It's just it couldn't probably be done on our budget.
Sure.
Not without AI. Maybe you could do it with AI now, but assuming that it's old style stuff, you have to deal with what you can pull off. And if it's not the kind of thing that's easily pulled off without money, then the writer, in case you, has to write that scene in a different way where it could be something we could pull off.
Right. One of the advantages is being a sitcom. Sitcoms tend to be pretty talky versus, say, your typical movie, which often has more action.
Right.
That helps a little bit. But just slightly off topic here, what's your favorite bad movie? And why?
Okay. There's a movie called Frankenstein Island. And
I remember that one.
I own it. My wife bought a copy of it for me. I had seen it on either Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks. And if you don't know what that is, it's people that are either robots in the MST thing, or in Riff Tracks, it's some of the guys from MST who talk over the movie. And so I noticed that this film, excuse me, got a hiccup, I'm at a loss for words. The film makes some of the weirdest decisions, and they look random, they look incomprehensible, and there are people who think that maybe the director was actually a genius, that he has made these decisions for a real reason. What that would be, I don't know, but it's just the movie is truly mind-boggling to watch what happens in it and why things. I mean, I can't say enough about the film. It is not a good film, but I can't say enough about it. If you ever get a chance to watch that, you should watch it.
Sure.
Just with the idea that you will be amazed. You will be amazed.
So let me ask you this: on that movie, or any of these bad movies, I've watched parts of them with you, and I get the feeling that for some of them, the writing is really, really bad. Yeah. But in some of them, the writing is good. It's just maybe the director and the DP was inexperienced, or maybe the editor tried to screw him over and pick the worst shot.
sometimes you're not even sure if they had an editor and a director. They're that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's going on with that. A lot of times it's the script. Yeah, I think you can really tell sometimes when there's just not much going on with the script. The script leaves these weird things in or out. Sometimes that
Right.
could be because of editing, but a lot of times it's incomprehensible or unfortunate dialogue. People say things that people just don't say. And that happens, I'm sure it happens in movies and good TVs where people say things they wouldn't really say, but somebody has an ear for making that plausible. It's just in bad films, a lot of
Mm.
times people will just pipe up with some line and you go, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And nobody would say that. And it doesn't foment the plot. So why did you make that choice? And it's because they were really written badly.
Right.
The thing about your scripts are they're very, very solid. Everything that
Thank you.
you have done is very solid. And so it's not a failure of the writing. If we have failures, it's probably because of the budget. But I think that there is a movie I have in mind called Night of the Creeps. You may have seen that. If anybody's watching this, they may have seen it. It's a very low budget film. It's got real actors in it, people who've had some credits, but it's a fairly low budget film. But man, it's got a dead solid, perfect script. The script is witty, it's funny, it's compelling. So the film's good. And you can look at it and kind of tell that it's not that high budget of a film. It's not slick in some respects, but it's really well written. The dialogue is really good. It's got an actor named Tom Adkins. If you've ever seen him, he's a phenomenal actor. He played cops back in the 70s and the 80s. He was I think he was in the first Die Hard film. So he's a very fine actor in a fairly low budget film, but the film is just wonderful. So I think we do have, in some respects, we have that going for us because the script's pretty darn good. The scripts are pretty darn good. We just, in the case of what you've had to do, you've had to write them with the idea of, can we do this? And I'm sure, that you've had probably great ideas that got left out because there's just no way to pull it off. Again, a parachuting elephant. We'd really like one of those, but we just can't afford it.
Well, look, Joe has gotten us an alligator and a goat.
I did.
Some dogs.
I did.
The dogs were easy, though, because you already had them. So maybe you can get us an elephant. Yeah,
I might be able to. We'll see. I hadn't realized that I am kind of the animal wrangler on this show, aren't I?
You are. One of the things about the show is that you and I have done about 60% of the jobs, and then Stephanie has done about 30%, and then we have whoever our DP is for the day, and if we're lucky, we have a sound guy. Otherwise, it's me. It's the sound guy. I set up the sound, so it's kind of crazy, but yeah. So the bad movies. You've seen a lot of Roger Corman.
Yeah, I've seen a fair amount of them, one form or another. Corman, he was pretty notorious about shooting stuff under budget. So it's not just that they were low budget, but he would bring them in under the budget he had, and he was very good with that. And he had a great eye for talent. Little Shop of Horrors had Jack Nicholson in it. And then
did it really?
Yeah, he was in the original Little Shop of Horrors, not the musical version, but the original.
Okay, yeah.
And or was it Little Shop of Horrors he was in? He was one that maybe not. I may be wrong about that, but he was in one of Corman's films. There's a guy named Dick Smith. Dick Smith, you would probably recognize him. He was in Piranha. He had a role in Terminator. He was the guy at the gun store when Schwarzenegger went in to buy the plasma rifle in the 40-watt range. Hey, just what you see on the wall, pal. That was Dick Smith. He was in Little Shop of Horrors. He was the guy that kept eating the flowers. So he had real actors. He had really good actors. He just didn't have much of a budget. I knew a guy, this is off subject, but I knew a guy that edited for him.
Really?
And he said they were in these shacks when they were editing. They were in shacks, and the bins where, when you do, this is back doing film, when you take a piece of film and cut it, the remainder gets thrown into a bin, big cloth, like a sort of thing that you might put mail into. They would put the ends on this film in there. And he said the cats would get in there and sleep on that stuff while they were editing.
Jeez.
So talk about low budget. But he turned out pretty good films. Not great, but pretty good films. They had a plot. They were technically proficient. They had pretty good acting. Not super great. They weren't high budget by any means.
Yeah.
But they weren't Frankenstein Island. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Not high art, but what? Middle art?
Yeah, middle art's probably a good idea.
Right.
Frankenstein's Island has got Cameron Mitchell in it, who was a long-time movie and television actor. It's got, I think, David Brody in it. It had some real actors in that, too. And it also had no discernible plot that I could tell. So hopefully we got that film beat. What's that?
Well, maybe that's overrated because a lot of modern movies now, they don't really have much of a plot, but they have a lot of explosions and really great production values.
Yes, and that goes a long way. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing that, but also a lot of those big budget films don't do well because they don't seem to have a plot. They don't have, sometimes you don't, because they don't write them in such a way that you care about the characters. You don't care about the characters, so you don't get involved in the movie. And like Milan and I watched a horror film the other day called Dog Soldiers.
Yes.
It's a werewolf film. And we watched a little making of kind of a documentary that was on the DVD. That's how old I am. I've got DVDs. And in the discussion, they talked about how they wanted to make all the characters somebody that you were vested in, so that when you lose the character, you lose something. So it's not just this amorphous blob of people; it's individuals.
Yeah.
And even big budget films sometimes fail on that.
Sure.
I think you can lose sight of the money makes you lose sight of the heart. It can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, Joe, we've been a little over 30 minutes, and what we wanted to do is start off doing these podcasts, just keeping them just about 30 minutes.
Sounds good.
If you like what you're watching and you'd like to see more, please let us know. This is going to be posted on YouTube, and I'm sure clips will be on TikTok and possibly Instagram. But we really appreciate you sitting in and listening to a couple of kooks conversing.
That's right. And keep watching the skies for Kookville.
Yes. The show we hope will be out very soon. The first, season, which is going to be probably the first 3 episodes, we're 2/3 of the way there. And we're almost done with the 3rd episode. We got everything else done. We've got all the artwork and all of that. We're so close. It makes me want to, scream sometimes how close we are. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And everybody have a good night.
Good night.